recruit from Houston. Kim, first let's start with you. Why East Carolina?
Well, I'm originally from Virginia, so obviously it got me back closer to home. But my initial conversation with John Gilbert in UAB at East Carolina, just his vision and what he wants for not just women's basketball, but the whole athletic program, fit what I was looking for. And just, getting back to my roots, getting back closer to home, and just feeling like I could take a team that was hungry for some stability. It really excited me about going back to the city.
All right, so you got to build there. You've all had to build in your respective corners of the world. Let's start with you, Melissa. How do you build a program? What's the most important aspect when you're building it?
To me, the most important aspect when we're building is talk about bringing in character kids. And obviously there are a lot of pieces that have to be in place. You have to have administrative support, you have to have talent, you have to have great coaching. But I still always go back to the recruiting rooms and talking about bringing kids with character. And I think that's how you best build a program that has some sustainability.
Jose?
That was the biggest thing. I think a lot of people take the locker room for granted. If you don't win in there first, you're not going to be very successful. And with the character you bring in, and you, of course, you establish a culture and you recruit to your style of play, and you continue to build on that every year. But if you don't have the right student athletes that are committed to getting a great education, being representatives in the community, but also have to be talented basketball players, you're not going to be successful.
Ron?
It's like everybody just said, culture wins. At the end of the day, you have to have the right pieces in place to be able to sustain the program. When you're talking about the culture, is understanding that the standards are being set. When you're talking about you're on time, you're late, so you have your 15 minutes early. Everybody dressing the proper way, going to class, sitting in the first 3 rows. When you start getting those things established and establishing that discipline throughout your program, that's the culture of the program, and those things win when you collectively start to win as a program.
So the Holy Grail is obviously getting into the NCAA tournament, coaching in the NCAA tournament. For 3 of the 4, we'll start with you, Kim. That quest to get there, how much does that drive you?
Right now for us at East Carolina, it's just about putting in our style of play. We're not really thinking about getting into the NCAA. We're just thinking about the next day and putting together consistent practices. That's where we are as a program. We're not talking about getting into the NCAA tournament. It's about putting in our style of play, building a program as these guys have talked about. But right now, it's just taking one day at a time and not really looking at getting into the NCAA tournament.
I think we talk more about the process than we do the absolute end result. Obviously, that has been our goal during our time at Memphis. We've fallen short of that to date, but we talk more about, are we putting in the work and do we have the appropriate commitment level to expect that? And I think once you have an opportunity to bring in enough talent, enough character, I think then you start, the building blocks become the final result. But ultimately, that's the goal, and it's at times elusive. It's difficult to make the NCAA tournament. Anybody up here will tell you that. But I also know that the building blocks are sometimes more important than, we can all put a goal out there of that, but if we're not willing to put in the work, and we don't have the commitment and the right players, it's not going to happen.
For us, it's every day. We talk about having NCAA practices and then measured by that every single day. We thought we had a good group last year, and we ended up missing again and going to NIT for the second time. And this year, the players already talked about not missing it. So again, that attention to detail and that urgency is already in them at the first day of practice. So again, it's every day for us.
Jose, we sat here a year ago talking about the buzz with your group and how that was going to be the breakthrough. When it doesn't happen the way you envision, how do you deal with that kind of adversity?
Well, it's tough because nothing prepares you. We were sitting here last year, and all the preseason polls, I think, were top 15, 17th in the country. And then we go up to Ohio State and have a great game. And 2 weeks later, we have wins over Oklahoma and UCLA. And not one of those 5 kids that started that first game got minutes in the conference tournament. So nothing really prepares you, but I couldn't be prouder of the group because when opportunity came, those guys were ready. And this year's group contains a lot of those kids who won 19 games and still got us to postseason. It was different for them because we had been to the NCAA tournament 5 of the last 6 years. So it was something that we had to adjust to. But we have three different types of teams this year. The guys are coming back off injuries, guys that played, and then the influx of 5 freshmen and a 2-year conference team.
You know, one thing I noticed with a lot of these teams, great balance. There has not been, for the most part, a couple of teams in this league have had, you know, at least one big-time scorer, someone who's averaging, you know, in that 18 to 20 range or 16 to 20. But for the most part, it's been, statistically, it seems like maybe 2 scores that are double figures. You know, I don't think that's done on purpose, but Ron, if you can speak to that, we'll go down the line here. Why do you think we're seeing, you know, maybe it's a little more germane to this group, but why there's been so much balance rather than, you know, 1 or 2 players that or more than that that have really stood out beyond that?
I think it's been better recruiting across the board for our conference. You know, we're getting more kids that can, you know, come in and make an impact at 2 and 3 and 4 positions instead of, you know, getting this one kid that's passing Power 5 to come here. I think we're getting collectively across the board better kids. I mean, 2 years ago we had 3 kids to average, almost 4 kids to average double figures, and it's across the board. I think all of us in all our programs, because again, we're getting better kids across the board.
I think we have really great coaches in our league, and I think if you talk to any coach, it's their goal to take the top, at least the top scorer, maybe the top 2 scorers out of it. And I think we're seeing, to Ron's point, I think we're seeing that 3rd and 4th player step up and show themselves a little bit during times when maybe your guns aren't necessarily there for you because somebody's decided to take them out of the game. But I think we have great coaches that game plan really well against great players.
Ron talks about the recruiting, and also I think one thing that you've seen within the conference too is the players in the league getting better. So there's a lot of great player development and individual instruction going on. But in this conference, there's so many different styles of play as well. And Melissa referred to this. Every night's a different game and a different battle.
Good.
Obviously, I'm the newbie. You know?
Right. But how did it work for you in the past?
You know, I was just thinking about the league and looking at the league, and one of the other reasons why I wanted to come to East Carolina is because I think day in, day out, we're playing against really good competition and great coaches up here. You know, it's a lot of great coaches in this league, a lot of great teams. So I think that probably has to do with the fact that you're not seeing, you know, 1 or 2 people being higher scores. And for me, my philosophy is I want 4 or 5 people in double figures. You know, and I'm sure coaches feel the same way.
Talking recruiting here, you mentioned it. International, you're heavy on that. What, like 10 of 12, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that? At least 10, right?
11 and 14.
11 and 14, all right. Why go international?
It just worked out that way for us, to be honest with you. It just changed when we made the switch from the Big East to the American. We needed to find different avenues to get high-level student athletes that were going to help us win and continue to get us to the NCAA tournament. And it just worked out that way. I think the international game has changed all around the world. Look at the NBA, the 4th of the NBA. We got over 120 international players out of 430. So 4th of the best league, of the best basketball player, the best league in the world. 4th of that is international guys. So I think it's also transcended to the WNBA and college basketball on both sides.
How often do you think you'll go international?
Right now we have 2. Currently, a young lady from Greece and a young lady from Canada. Haven't had a lot of dealings in my past with international recruiting, but for us, it's all about getting the best players wherever that is.
Houston, Memphis, a larger figure, Texas, Tennessee, male, female, been recruiting hotbeds. How much pressure, or is there to stay local because it's within your region to recruit it? And I know in Memphis you've got a couple of local, actually city kids like they have had historically on the men's side as well. Speak to Memphis, and then Ron can pick that up on Houston.
Well, obviously it's incredibly important. That speaks to our fan base, it speaks to the excitement, it speaks to the energy around our program from our own community. We started that a little bit with Jamira Shoots. You see it this year with Lynette and Lenice Williams, along with Madison Briggs. Those are high-level players that chose to stay at home. And I think when you have those type of players that choose to stay at home, they wear that jersey just a little bit differently because they are from Memphis and they do carry that pride. I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure for all of us to get that kid, but it's also got to be the right kid that can also handle that situation, because it's not difficult. It's difficult to manage the expectations, particularly as a young player in your home community. But I think our kids will weather that very well.
And just like Ms. Lissa said, you know, the pressure, the fan base, everything. But for us, it's vital for us. I think 9 out of the 12 are from Texas. For us, and everyone else comes to Texas to recruit. So we're in a battle with our local kids, and so it's tremendous for us to be able to get them because they're going to other places and shine, and we want them to do that in their own state.
Let's talk commitment here. Clearly, there is an uptick in it, but you're competing for that entertainment dollar. You know, 3 of the 4 schools here are in pro towns. You know, there's been a massive commitment to the sport of basketball on the Houston campus. This should start with you, Ron. How has that made a huge difference in your program for what they've done over the last couple of years?
It's been tremendous for us. I mean, when you walk into, say, a typical day when you got Steve Kerr and those guys down there practicing, using our practice facility because we're 10 minutes from the Toyota Center, and Kelvin Sampson has a relationship with all those guys just because of his NBA affiliation. I mean, Oladipo, I mean, so our young ladies are having opportunity just to be and see those guys, and they come in, they use our facilities, young ladies take pictures, everything. We use all of them recruiting. And again, on top of that, it's just tremendous with all our guys that are making the league now on that side of Armani Brooks and those guys who have been friends with our young ladies forever. And they come back and they tell the stories and be able to help us in recruiting too. So it's tremendous for us that we have that affiliation and we use it to the maximum.
Melissa?
Well, obviously, we've got a lot of excitement in our city. We've got a lot of things, whether it's Mike Norvell and our football team in the top 25. Certainly, Penny Hardaway has changed the landscape in Memphis. You know, they play in great facilities. We've had to wait a little bit for that, but our facility changes should be coming soon. That commitment from the department and the administration, I think none of us function really well if we don't have that. But right now, everybody's on a high in Memphis, and we're expecting to be able to ride that wave with them.
You know, Brian Gregory was up here earlier today, the men's coach, and we talked about in the winter, it has to be outside in Tampa. So how do you compete for that, to get people inside the building and watch your product?
We've been fortunate to host 3 Final Fours. I mean, we have a great Tampa Sports Commission. And the Yingling Center, every year attendance has increased, and it's tough to do where you have pro football, baseball, and hockey. But when you win and you play an exciting style, last year we broke our highest attendance average again. We were a bit over 3,200 a game, so we're very proud of that. And it's a big home court advantage for us.
What do you hope to do with East Carolina?
Well, obviously ECU is a little different than anybody up here or anybody in the league, where it's your more traditional college town. You know, we're not in the city, which is good because we are the show. You know, whether it's football, soccer, volleyball, basketball, you know, we are a place where families come and kids come, and it's a good feeling, you know, for our athletes to be able to go out into the community, which we're really big on community service, but people know who they are. And Greenville loves ECU, they love their Pirates, and so it's a special place to be. And you know, we just want to continue to work every single day to make the community proud, and know that when they come out and watch us play, they're going to be a team, see a team that's going to work extremely hard, they're going to play together, and they're going to have fun together.
It feels like we're in sort of a watershed time period for women's sports where things are just getting better and better. Recognition, coverage, obviously Women's World Cup, and then we just saw the WNBA finals, the Mystics winning. It was exciting, and it was a packed house. What's the sort of the positive collateral aspect of that for the women's college game, for all this buzz that's been happening over the last couple of years?
Well, hopefully it just continues to go into our season. I think the best time of the season, the best time of the year is when it's basketball season. You're glued to the TVs, and the more TV exposure we can get, the more that, we can have, parity in our game, whether we're seeing in the Final Fours or different teams get into the Final Fours. I think that's only going to help continue to grow our game.
How about you guys?
I thought it was a great time. I was very fortunate to go up and watch Courtney, game 3 up in Connecticut. She didn't play very well, and they lost, so I wasn't going to game 5, and I wanted no part of being blamed for that. But the series it was great basketball to watch, and that finals game was great. It was great to have our players and our fans watch it back home as well.
I think anytime you have an opportunity for young females to see accomplished females, I think that's a really great opportunity for them to go around. So many of our young women grew up with male role models when it came to sports. And so many of them have never seen a female be on a big stage like that and be successful. I also think it's a great thing because the game of basketball comes through the international game, through the NBA, and now it's filtering into the WNBA and then down to college. So it gives our players exposure to a higher level of the game that they've not been exposed to before.
I think the best is yet to come. When you talk about what they're doing in tennis and Coco and all of those kind of things, and like you say, WNBA and World Cup, and I just think that the best is yet to come for what's coming up for this season, women's basketball.
All right, so let's go down the line just about your teams here before we wrap up. East Carolina, you probably weren't surprised, picked sort of the lower third. It's just on the paper, doesn't mean anything. All right, so to exceed these projections, what has to go right for ECU this season?
Right now it's like a group of freshmen out there. We're putting in our system, nobody out there knows it, so we're all learning together. And we're just focusing on right now, as Melissa said, falling in love with the process. What's the process? The process is doing things when your coaches aren't looking. It's watching film, it's getting up shots, it's, working hard every single day. And right now we're a little inconsistent, which is, we're all freshmen, which I say we are. But it's not about today for ECU, it's about building for the future. Rome wasn't built in a day, and as highly competitive as I am, we're going to continue to push these players every single day, to be the best that they can be, but understanding that it is a process, and that it's about the future and building a stable women's basketball program at ECU.
All right, USF picked second.
I think we're used to being picked around there, but we returned a really talented bunch and did a good job recruiting some new guys. I think November and December are going to be very important for us with the type of non-conference schedule that we're playing. But you're playing that schedule to get ready for the 16 games ahead that we're going to play in January and February. So, big thing for us, stay healthy.
And Melissa, how do you exceed expectations here? Memphis picked 8th.
Well, our two leading scorers are now a sophomore and a junior, so we're still young. We have 8 new players. I think you'll see as many as 3 impact players in those 8. What that's going to allow us to do is, number one is, again, assuming we stay away from injury, it's going to give us more depth than we've had in a long time. And I think our biggest key is developing as a team, not just on the court, but accepting roles and really being in it for all of us instead of in it for me. And I think that's one of those cultural things that every team has to embrace in order to be successful.
Ron, Houston picked 5th, which is certainly in that postseason range.
Yeah, we're tired of being there. We're planning on being in contention for winning the league. That's the thing that we talk about every single day along with the NCAAs. You have to challenge yourself, you have to set those goals, and you have to try to reach as far as you possibly can. You're never lowering the standard. And for us, it's going to take that culture and that leadership and that accountability and that appreciation and caring for each other to get there. We put together a great non-conference schedule, and I took all the advice and played some people and neutral sites and some tournaments, so that was really good. And, but for us, it's it's taking the next step. You know, we have to take the next step, and we can't accept second place or it was okay, you had a good run, and all those pat on the back things are done. It's time for us to move forward.
Ron Hewitt, Melissa McFerrin, Jose Fernandez, Kim McNeil, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew.